Hello and welcome to this week's Four Ps podcast. I am your host, Trunnis Goggins, and you know what? We have been away for almost a month. I mean, it's been 3 weeks since we've had a new episode, and there is a reason for that. I was in Australia, and even though I did record episodes before I left, because I didn't record all the other stuff that goes with it, I just decided we were going to take some time and give it a break. It's funny how this episode that we have coming up today, I was wearing a hoodie and I was cold. And now today I am not cold. I'm actually wearing a short sleeve polo. I'm wearing the Buffalo Sabres. I'm going to talk about them a little bit here in a second. I'm going to talk about them a lot here in the next couple of weeks. Very excited being a Buffalonian myself. Cannot believe the things that are going on while I was in Sydney, and I was in, like I said, I was in Hobart as well. Had a lot of great experiences while I was there and had a great time. But before I went to Australia, and I'm going to show you some really cool stuff here in a minute. Before I went to Australia, I had the opportunity to interview a guy by the name of Jerome Myers. Jerome Myers talks about, he is from here. He's from not from Asheville, but he is from North Carolina. He's from Greensboro, North Carolina. He is just somebody who looks at life, looks at success in a totally different light, a lot different than the way we view success all the time. I should say we type A personalities, and I am one of them, who always find success and drive success as someone who, you've got to get stuff done, you got to hit goals, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this, you got to all these things. He doesn't look at it that way. He looks at it a lot different. Not saying that goals and all those things are not important, because they very much are, especially in his philosophy. But also he looks at it in a totally different way. And he is somebody who made me think. This is the first time he's on our podcast, will not be the last time he's on our podcast. I talked to him after we were done and said, hey, we need to work together. Me and him are I love the synergy between the two of us. He's a great man. His name is Jerome Myers. And when we come back, we will have him on the show. Be right back right after this.
Every story begins with a truth. Some stories are meant to inspire. Some are meant to heal. All deserve to be heard. At Veritas Publishing House, we bring truth to life through the written word. At Veritas, we guide authors from vision to visibility with purpose, planning, passion, and persistence. This is more than just publishing. It's legacy. Veritas Publishing House, publishing truth, inspiring purpose.
Welcome back to the Four Ps podcast. Today I have Jerome Myers. Now, very, very seldom do I have people in my home. Well, this is my home state now. I live here in North Carolina, and very seldom do I have people in North Carolina on my program. But today in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I would say it's probably about 3 hours east of me, is our guest, Jerome Myers. Welcome to the program, Jerome. How are you doing today?
Amazing, brother. Thanks for having me, man. So grateful for the opportunity to share with you and the audience today.
I'm glad to have you here. Jerome, we were just having a conversation before we got started in interviewing, and we were talking about, success. I'm the four P's guy: purpose, planning, passion, and persistence. I'm like, all right, here, what's your purpose? Right? And a lot of people think that when they achieve their purpose, that's it.
Yeah.
Um, you actually brought in a phenomenal point when it comes to success, which if you successfully achieve your purpose, that's success. But you bring up something very interesting about success. And what is that?
I think most people believe that success is like a marathon or some type of race. You run, you cross the finish line, and there's going to be this long lasting sense of fulfillment on the backside of crossing
Mhm.
that finish line. And I think it's a lot more like mountain climbing. There's the ascent, it's arduous, it's tough. You get there to the summit, You look around, you take in the view, it's breathtaking. And for many people, it was all the stuff they thought it would be. And
Hmm.
then they realize that there's no elevator down, there's no helicopter coming to get them. They've got to figure out how to get back down. They got to figure out how to get back home. And if you know anything about like Kilimanjaro or Everest, most people don't perish on the way up, they perish on the way down. And so once you get
Mm.
that high of success at the summit, not having a descent plan, a desire to get back home safely is something that blindsides folks and leaves them in what we've been calling, for people who are exiting their business, a transaction illusion.
Wow. So when you talk about descent plan, are you talking about like an off ramp? Are you talking about just, I get the, okay. Um, I get to the point to where this is where I wanted my life to be. Okay. I get to the top of whatever my life wanted to be. Let's say, the top of my life is PhD. And I'm gonna do this because there was a situation that I was going through. I did get my PhD. So I got to the PhD. I'm up there. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at the top of the mountain. I'm at the top of Mount Everest, which it felt like I was at the top of the moon, man. It took so long to get that son of a bitch. But what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
what are you talking about when you say descent? Because where
Yeah.
is there to go at that point?
Okay, so you've defended your dissertation. You got to the day of graduation where you walk and you got the black gown instead of whatever the school gown is, right? You turn the tassel.
Mhm.
And then what? What happened then?
Exactly. Well, then I had a job and started working, and that was it. Yeah, for a while.
So, what happened? The high of the PhD likely went away
It
and
went
it
away
just
quickly.
became normal. You were
Hmm.
doctor now. Some people force people to call them doctor because, hey, I did the work. People are going to honor and respect it. But
Hmm.
for a lot of people, doctor doesn't matter anymore because they've already done it. We've got this hedonic adaptation to the new space. Our worlds, our bodies, our minds want to get back to equilibrium. They want to be in normal. And so when we get these dopamine hits, our lives go up, we feel this euphoria, and then very quickly it comes back down from the hit. And this is where the wisdom of the journey is what you're really seeking, not the destination. But most
Wow.
people only think about
Okay.
the journey to. They don't think
Hmm.
about the journey from. Right? If I successfully achieve or accomplish something, on the front side of that, I believe that my life's going to be changed forever. Take the quarterback in high school, right? Varsity Letterman jacket. I broke this record. We won states, whatever the thing is. That's cool in that space. But where does that lead you to? Because if it leads you to the gas station at 30, still wearing the jacket, talking about the good old days, the world is going to pass you by and you're going to slip into a state of the best things that were in my life are in the past.
Oh, okay. Roger that. I love that what you just said is something that is pinnacle for everybody. Because here you go, and it works. What you are talking about is about every bit of life. You talked about the quarterback just now. I brought up the situation about the PhD, and I'm going to tell you right now, I don't like people calling me doctor.
Yeah.
I really don't. I don't even
Yeah.
use the term. I use doctor if I have to, But I mean, and I'm telling you, I use it if I have to. People that work with me, they will tell you that. I don't use it. When I achieved the PhD, the things that I went through to get that PhD,
Mm-hmm.
okay? I shed a tear because there's a lot of personal things I went through.
Yeah.
One being the death of my daughter while I was working on my PhD. And I still finished and I still completed. So I did feel a sense, I don't want to say it was a sense of accomplishment. It was a sense of I overcame, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I really felt, I mean, I felt okay, I accomplished something great, but I also felt that, you know what, I'm strong enough to do.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, I moved on. There are people also They and this is actually I'm going to say this is actually, and I shouldn't say this. I read this a long time ago. I forgot where I read it. I'm 55 years old. I'm getting old. I don't remember anything anymore. But I forgot where I read it. But there was a someone did a study, and I got to find it again. But it stuck in my mind where the more you spend on your wedding, the
The
more
more likely you
likely
are to
you are.
divorce.
Okay, so you've read that same thing or you've
Yeah,
heard
yeah,
that. Okay, good.
yeah.
Because I hope I'm not just throwing crap out there on the internet because that's what a lot of people do. But that's the thing. So the journey, so to speak, as you were talking about, was walking up that aisle, saying I do, and having roses and rice and all that other crap thrown at you. Beautiful. Once that's done, that's when a new journey begins. Is that what you're alluding to?
Yes. So I would go a step further and say the new journey begins before you even summit, right? If you're on the way up, and this is where I think most business owners get trapped. When you're on the way up, you're so focused on the finish, right? You're so focused on completing the task at hand. And many people get myopia. They get tunnel vision on, I just got to get there. And then once I get there, they look up, they look around, and they may find that there's a peak that's higher than the peak that they're on. But what I
Mhm.
found, and this metaphor of the ladder, right, the corporate ladder, I'm climbing the ladder. So many people have their ladder on the wrong building, right, and they get to the top of the ladder and they're like, oh man, this isn't what I hoped it was, this wasn't what I dreamed of it being. And it's all because they didn't look around when they were on the journey. They were solely focused. They had tunnel vision on the goal. And, everybody that teaches success, everybody that teaches achievement says, hey, you got to focus. You got to be obsessed. You got to give up everything else. You got to sacrifice. But
Mhm.
I've not actually found any real literature, if you think about stuff happening in the spiritual realm, that supports that. It talks
Right.
about enduring, right? It talks about resilience. It talks about being willing to let go of what you had or have in order to become who you need to be, in order to do the things that need to be done, in order to have the stuff that you want to have. But it doesn't tell you, hey, you got to sacrifice, you got to give everything up, you've got to this. I think you have to have intention, and you got to
Right.
set priorities, right? And then you got to act in accordance, be in alignment with the mission that you're on. But that isn't sacrifice. And for me, that's a foundational shift in the way that we approach life, because there's so many options. There's so many choices and decisions that we get to make on a daily basis. If we don't have an intention, if we don't have a mission that we're submitted to.
Okay. So when you see people who are business people and get stuck in a rut, they may have a business, like for example, the guy who starts his own business, he starts an electrician's business and he's making great money, doing good things, but he's miserable. He's at the summit. He decides to stay at the summit. There's no descent down. The only thing he's doing is he's waiting for maybe one of his kids to come up so it can be, instead of it being Ralph, it's now Ralph and Sons
Mm-hmm.
electricity. Okay. But then you have people out there, business people such as even Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey is a fantastic business person. She started out doing talk shows, and now she's got her own network. She's got this. She's got magazines. She's like a media mogul. She's a media giant. Then you have people like Richard Branson. Richard Branson started out, as a matter of fact. We can thank Richard Branson for Boy George and the Culture Club. You did not know that, but I just have to tell you that, and I appreciate that because I'm gonna tell you right now, back in the day, Boy George, he had some pipes, man. And then he also had like the Clash and stuff like that. He started out with Virgin Records, and now he's got airplanes, he's got communications, he's everywhere, he's diversified. Are those the people who, by diversification, by finding other summits, are those the people that you say have already started their next journey on their way up? or are they not?
So
Or are they people that go ahead? Mhm.
your setup is fascinating, right? Because you said staying, they stay at the peak. You couldn't stay at the peak of walking across the stage. It was a moment, right?
Exactly.
You were there then, and that was it. And it's a memory. Like it's
Right.
gone. We can't
Mhm.
stay at the peak, right? Like if we think about Kilimanjaro or Everest, you can only stay up there for 10 or 15 minutes. And then you've got to start making your way back down because the air is so thin, right? You
Absolutely. Okay.
can't sustain that intensity. So everybody has to come down. There is no staying at the peak. For the people who are running a family owned business and they're thinking about succession to the next generation, the peak for most people is a liquidity event. Now, in our model, there's 8 exits for a founder, but the sixth one, which is what most people talk about, is a liquidity event. And so they cash out all of the sacrifice, all of the struggle, all of the endurance that they use in order to get to that place where they can monetize the business in a way where there's an extra 0 or 2 in their bank account, right?
Roger that. Mhm.
They, but you don't stay there. The wire hits, and then it's the money's there, but your state of the wire hitting, that dopamine hit of the wire hitting goes away very
Pretty
shortly.
soon.
Like for most people, they don't even make it through the weekend if they get the money on a Friday, right?
Wow. Okay.
And that is this transaction illusion that I mentioned earlier. It is, and it is bad for the industry when I start talking about this, right? Because everybody tells a business owner, "Oh my gosh, like you're going to make all this money, you're going to do all this thing, you're going to have all this fulfillment once you get to the place where you sell your business, and you're going to be a decamillionaire, you're going to be a centimillionaire, maybe you'll be a billionaire, depending on how big you build it." And once you cross that finish line, everything's going to be okay. That finish line of making the money. But the reality is the money is just an amplifier. It's no different than tools in your tool shed in your backyard. And so the money's there, but if it's not deployed against a problem, it's worthless.
Mm.
And what I find is if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the money only solves the bottom 2 levels of that pyramid, right? When you
Absolutely.
start talking about love and belonging, you start talking about self-actualization. And if you want to get really fancy and go off the pyramid and start talking about transcendence, money doesn't solve any of that. And
Right. Right.
so, you can have a liquidity event that makes you work optional, solves your money problems. But then you've got these more complex problems that the money can't solve. And we see people using pre exit solutions, money, to try to solve post exit problems. This loss of purpose that you have because you don't have the business that structured your day anymore becomes a very real problem that nobody really wants to talk about. And so when I say, hey, this transaction illusion is a problem for the industry, I grew up in a world where you tell everybody if you have enough money, you'll figure it out, only to
Mm-mm.
find out that 75% of people who exit their businesses regret it a year after. It's not about the money.
That is you know what? That is a very interesting thing to say. As you were sitting there talking about that, you think about all of the people who made it, and I'm going to say made it, and then
Air
after
quotes.
they make it,
Yeah.
yeah, and after they make it, really dumb things happen to them. Like really stupid things happen to them because you're looking at those other you're looking at the hierarchy of needs. Then you're looking at the esteem needs, you're looking at this because what you are doing, especially people who never had money before,
Mm-hmm.
who then go into money
Mm-hmm.
and they think that money is going to do that special thing that they've seen on TV, and it
Mm-hmm.
actually doesn't. And then those are the people that usually fall off the rails harder than anybody else.
Yeah.
And that could be through just deviant conduct, drugs, depression,
Mm-hmm.
you name it. All of those things come into to play. We were talking a little bit about sports before we got started. We were talking about a football player, and this is not the football player I'm talking about, but there was a football player back in the early 2000s. I'm not going to say his name. Hopefully, he's living a much better life now, but he played. He was a phenomenal defensive back, And a lot of people are going to know who this guy is when I say that. And buddy, I don't know what happened to him, but I mean, his talent was immeasurable,
Mm.
but he totally, I mean, he was in the news all the time. He got suspended by the NFL for, I think, an entire season. And I'm not saying he got suspended on the NFL for doing NFL stuff, not
Right.
even drugs or anything like that. It was just downright, what in the hell were you thinking when you did that? You know,
He's chasing a high. He's chasing a high.
exactly.
So like this transaction illusion, right? Like once we get the hit and we're looking for the next hit, if we don't have purpose, we don't have intention, then we'll veer off into the things that we think will solve it immediately. Right? The whole goal is to make yourself feel like you matter. And so what can I do to feel something? And for men, it shows up in very destructive ways typically, right? The marriage that lasted for longer than the business lasted quickly unravels, right? The money that you might not feel that you deserve because you didn't have it, you became an immigrant to the land of wealth. You do one or two things. You hoard it because you're scared you're not going to be able to keep it, or you spend it as quickly as you can because you don't feel like you deserve it. But it all comes back at core to, does my life matter anymore? You know, I interviewed a guy yesterday on my podcast. He played in the NFL. He built a successful financial services business, and then he exited. And now I think he exited on December 1st. On January 1st, he started a new business.
Hmm.
And then he exited another one, and he got paid on December 31st. And the next year on January 1st or 2nd, he started a new business. And his wife asked him when he went the second time, hey, are you going to give me a week? Right? He just needed to keep the will growing. And like, as an athlete, it's easy for you to just start training for the next season because you don't know what else to do.
Absolutely.
But in life, we find that most people don't have a next season. And so this concept of like, who am I now and what's next, figuring that out before you summit, right? I don't think you waited until after you graduated to start looking for new roles. I think you had a role identified before the graduation, or you got a promotion after the graduation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you were able to move into that new space and fully integrate that identity change, right? The achievement is just kind of an arrow in the quiver. It's a part of your identity. You're just kind of putting a rock in your rucksack and you keep going. But for the people that don't have a direction that they're going on, the rock just becomes weight, right? Because it's not embedded. It's not integrated.
You know, that is a great thing. I love what you said. So you said you had a podcast. What is the name of your podcast?
You're next. Find a
You're next.
fulfillment after your exit.
I love that. When you say you're next, man, it's like, hey, you know what's we can roll, man. You don't live too far from me. I'm joking. I'm just joking. I love that. So that is the name of your podcast. Any books or anything like that that we can get from you?
Yeah, so our latest book is called Exit to Excellence. I actually have a copy right here, A Journey to Your Next. And so we this one we did a little nicer. You know, it's hardback, it's color on the inside. But we tell this story of a guy named James going through the exiting process and then figuring out what he was going to do next. I find that most business owners aren't exit ready. And so they come to a place where they start thinking about it. And it's like, oh, 3 to 5 years, I'll be ready to exit my business. The number's arbitrary or it's tied to a specific birth date or something like that. And I point that out because I don't believe that it's tied to like a retirement. Exit strategy, exit planning is just good business. The more valuable you are to the business as an owner, the less valuable the business is. And so like that juxtaposition for me was the biggest bubble pop that I ever had in business, because I had a mentor tell me that and I was like, man, well, of course I need to be the most valuable asset to the business. I remember when I wanted to do what you did, I was like, man, I'm going to get my PhD. I'm going to be the most valuable person at my company because I'm smarter than everybody else and I have more degrees. And when my mentor pointed out, like, that's not transferable. Your liquidity event is going to be reduced if you're the most important person at the company, or you're going to have to go with the company in order to transfer some of that value. I was like,
Oh,
oh
that's
man, I'm
beautiful.
playing the game wrong. You want the business to become an asset, something that works without you, something that you can buy, sell, and trade as you wish. I was like, wait, so what makes me matter? And that unraveled into a whole different exploration. But I don't want to lose the point of the book
Mm.
is helping people figure out their next and giving them frameworks and processes so that they can move from the person that they are today to the person that they're destined to be. I think liquidity events are put in people's lives to buy their freedom so that they can then take their time, talent, and treasure and apply it against a problem that's going to make the world a better place. I don't
This is,
find that
yeah.
many people that have businesses are actually running a business that's really linked or directly tied to their purpose. They found something that made money and they're just riding the horse.
You know what? And I'm going to tell you, I have a book out called Lessons from My Father. And in the book Lessons from my father built a very extremely successful business in Buffalo, New York. Um, and it literally became attached to him. And I'm going to tell you, even though he did love what he was doing for people, he really did. He hated the fact that he was tied to that. That it was literally it. He was attached to that business uh, um, very much like I'm attached to my brain. If I lose it, I'm dead. And that's exactly what happened. And consequently, when he died, the business died with him. Not too much after. And so I love how you brought that up and the way you talked about that and everything else like that, because literally the business lost its value. Once my father left it, it lost its value because it was
Mm-hmm.
no longer, it wasn't just about the business, it was about my father. A very, very good example that you used. Jerome, this is not, I'm going to tell you right now, this is not the last time you're going to be on my podcast. I mean that. I love having a conversation with you. You look at things the depth that you look at things is just outstanding. It is phenomenal, and it's gives somebody, especially a lot of the people on my podcast that are a lot of people who are listening to my podcast, a lot of the entrepreneurs around the world that are listening to this podcast. You know what? There's something else, and you always have to look for that next journey. You know, the drive doesn't end. You know, you've got to keep on looking for that next journey, and I learned a lot from today. And thank you very much, Jerome. Jerome Myers, he is, like I said, he is from the state. Are you from the state of, or you just live in the state of, like,
Yeah, I'm
hey,
an Army kid. I grew up in Fayetteville, man.
Roger that, Roger that. So I am a transplant. Again, like I'm originally from Buffalo, New York. I was in the Navy, so I do forgive your parents for joining the wrong branch of the military,
He started
and
in the
that's okay.
Marines. My mom was in
All
the
right,
Navy.
there you
My
go.
dad started in the Marines.
All right, good. Well, then I do. And your mom is smarter than two parents, right there. We already know that.
Uh,
All right.
she knew that before you said it.
But anyway, but thank you so much. And we will be back right after this. Again, Jerome, thank you for being on the program. Before I let you go, I just want everybody to know that all of his information will be in the podcast notes, and follow him. And like I said, after you get done watching his podcast, make sure you watch mine. It's the Four Piece Podcast, and listen to both of them, because I'm going to tell you right now, you get some serious knowledge from Jerome. I mean, I have got some serious knowledge. Me, I kind of like give you knowledge, and I will always give you knowledge, but that is some deep, like, Socrates stuff that we had going on today, and I absolutely appreciate it. We'll be right back right after this.
Some fathers teach you how to stand tall. Others teach you how to survive. In Lessons from My Father, Dr. Trunnis Goggins II confronts the legacy of a powerful, complicated man and the truths no one talks about. This is a story of discipline and damage, loyalty and fear, love that left scars. Because sometimes the hardest lesson is understanding the man who made you. Lessons from My Father. Available now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and anywhere you buy books.
Welcome back to the final segment of this podcast, the Four Piece Podcast. And like I said, Jerome, if you heard him, especially if you're going for something in life, if you heard what he had to say and you heard the mindset and the way to approach things, it is a lot different than it's almost a lot different than the way society tells us to do it. You know, we live in a society where it's now, 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 now. It is do, 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 do. And he is, you know, he has a very methodical way of looking at success and judging the mindset. Very, very good. Has a couple books. You'll see it in the podcast notes. Once we get done with that, he'll have a couple books that you can definitely pick up and read. Please, like I said, he is just a very good person. You know, I was talking a little bit, and I have two more things to say before I let you go. I was talking a little bit about the Buffalo Sabres. And again, here's my polo. I love this polo. It is the black and red. And it's funny how they say the retro jerseys. Now, I was born and they were blue and gold. They're blue and gold again. That's their standard colors. But they were black and red back when I was having children. So when people say the retro, I'm like, dude, no, that's not retro. That's pretty new. They just went back to the retro. I consider what we're wearing now retro, but it's actually not to the people who are in their 20s and 30s. It is literally the stuff. That is the retro stuff, the black and red. I do like that jersey. It does remind me of some good times in the 90s. That was a pretty tough team back in the 90s, in the early 2000s. They went 14 years without going to the playoffs. And 7 of those years, I believe, there was a guy by the name of Kevin Adams. And Kevin Adams was the general manager of the Buffalo Sabres for, like I said, 7 years. He was just fired in the middle of the season. What I find amazing about the Buffalo Sabres is when he was fired, they were in the basement. They were on a winning streak when he got fired. They were like on a 3 or 4 game winning streak when he got fired, but they were a horrible team. The chances of them going to the playoffs were next to none. He leaves. The team doesn't change. The roster really doesn't change. I think they added like 2 or 3 more people, and that's about it to the roster during the trade. And that really didn't do anything to really enhance or anything from the team. It didn't really take it away. It just added some depth or whatever. But the team that he built was left intact. And that team now went from one of the worst, I think maybe the worst team in the league when he got fired, to one of the best teams in the league. And right now, for the first time in 14 years, they are guaranteed to make the playoffs. It's funny how the city of Buffalo has a renewed sense of purpose when it comes to hockey. They call that hockey heaven, or they used to call it hockey heaven for a little while, and then that kind of like died out when the team kind of sucked. But then they changed it up. It's funny how one element can get you from worst to first. And I'm not just talking about hockey, I'm talking about life in general. One element, one thing you're doing, let go of one thing and maybe you go from worst to first, or gain one thing and maybe you go from worst to first. All of those things, one element can change the entire dynamic of a team. And in this case, the guy that they fired wasn't even on the ice. Never touched well, he was. He played for another team years and years ago, but he wasn't on the ice. He didn't play. But one element can change the culture, can change the mindset, can change anything. So when you think about what the story I'm telling you about, the worst to first for the Buffalo Sabres this year, I want you to think about, what is that one thing in life that you have to bring in or you have to get rid of that can change you from worst to first, can make you a better athlete, can make you a better worker, can make you a better father, make you a better mother, make you a better spouse, make you a better friend. All those things. You know, what's that one element that you may have to get rid of? If you're already first, you're already first. Don't get rid of anything. But if you're not, what's that one element? And I will have to say, definitely watch the Buffalo Sabres. I know people now in Buffalo are now starting to watch them again. That's nice. I do appreciate that. But I want you to think about that when you think about what element can be done to make you go from worst to first. And like I said, you may be doing everything right. There's just that one thing. And in the case of the Buffalo Sabres, that's right, because I mean, that team is very talented. They've always had talent on the team. They got rid of one thing, the mindset changed. They now can do things that they never did before. And before I leave, I want to talk about this book. The book is Stories of Transgression and Recovery. A lot of writers in this book, a lot of friends in this book, and I talked about this before about what the book is about. Great book. Great authors in here. My friend Ryan Mader's in here. Tessa Williams is in this book. Dr. Angela Bennett's in this book. My high school friend Scott Free is in this book. There's tons of books. I can go on and on and on and on, but they're in this book. You do not notice right now because it's on film, but this book was actually printed by our distributing partner in Australia. And I got this book for the first time, and I'm going to tell you, Aburra Press, it's Aburra, they're out of Sydney, and they are our distributing partner in the country of Australia, and they distribute all over Australia. So if you get our books from Australia and you get it from a local bookstore, you are getting it for sure from Aburra. And we are trying to make different inroads and stuff like that with other companies, so it will be everywhere in Australia. Again, Aburra Press, great place, great book, and I'm going to tell you right now, quality. There's nothing but quality in this book. I was so spoiled when I touched this book at how nice it is, and the reason why I'm talking about it right now, yes, I want you to buy this book, all right? Buy it anywhere you can, but I also want you to think about, when if you are a business or something like that in Australia, and yes, I'm giving him free press because he deserves it. Please go to Aburra, go to Barry, tell him that Trunnis sent you. Again, his quality is impeccable. It is second to none. I've never seen anything like it. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. I mean, it just feels good in the hand. He actually printed up a couple of special copies for me. I don't know if you could see him, and I'm not going to get up and stuff like that and start moving around, but I'll show them to you next time. He had some special edition copies, like some glossy, metallic look and stuff like that. It was pretty bad. I loved it, and that's it. For what he did, and like I said, he's a fantastic individual. Next week, I meant that's it. When I said that's it, I was getting ready to say that's all we have for the show, and that is true. This is all we have for the show. But next week, Laura McDonald. I know you guys know Phil McDonald. Phil McDonald has been on the show a couple times. He is a great influence of the show. He's a great friend of the show. He's almost like a special guest of the show or something like that. But his daughter is going to be on the program next week. And when you hear her story, Phil McDonald, he's a fighter. He has a couple world records and things like that because of fighting. You're going to realize that fighting is absolutely in the DNA of the McDonald family. Love them to death. Look forward to next week. See you next week. Have a good one. Remember, what's that one element? I want you to think about that. What's that one element that can take you from worst to first? That's if you are worse. Even if you're middle of the road, you're not going to make the playoffs. Trust me, I know that. So if you're going to go worst to first, what's that one element that you can think of? And that's what I want you to think of from now until next Tuesday. Until then, see you later. Bye-bye.